Audio Unleashed.
We're recording, so we can go anytime you want, bud.
Make it happen.
All right, let's make it happen. Well, you're introducing the first story, so I guess you make it happen.
The first story is about the new IEM meta. That alone makes me want to give up audio forever.
I don't think anybody involved used the word meta correctly, at least if they're putting it in the gaming context.
Of course not. Of course not. What they're looking for is paradigm.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And they offer like three different versions, three different definitions of meta. And I, as a gamer, am looking at every one of those definitions and going, no, you guys don't know what the meta is. So, anyway.
Dennis.
Yes.
Is it news to you that these people's command of the English language is not strong?
Well, it's not so much the English language as it is like the gamer lingo. You can kind of always tell when somebody's faking it, man. And I think they're faking it. But anyway,
it's a new. They're saying it's not a target curve, except it is a target curve.
Totally a target curve.
Yeah. It's not a war. It's an excursion. Okay. And, anyway, it's a new target curve, whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
And for in IEMs, in-ear monitors, or otherwise known as earbuds or earphones.
Yeah.
So this builds on top of, this has been kicking around for, since the end of the last decade when Harman came out with their curves, target curves.
Yeah.
And of course, once somebody comes out with a target curve, everyone else has to say, oh, no, I have the right target curve.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of normal because for a wide variety of reasons, psychological, acoustical, et cetera, people may not like a certain target curve. And they may think, oh, well, I don't think that's good. What's better is this. And so we're getting this. However, I as annoyed as I was when I found out about this, I'm like, you know what? I got to give it a shot. And I actually looked at a video and I looked at a story on headphones.com. And I'm like, as annoyed as I am here, and as silly as kind of navel gazing and solipsistic as this is, and having nothing to do with music at all. I do think that both of this article and this YouTube video made some reasonably good cases and were not as prescriptive as a lot of times these new curve guys are.
And I don't think I'm as grumpy about any of this as you are. So maybe I'll be the lighthearted comedy relief on this segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And next, what do we have?
Next, we got our hands on a press release from a company called Oben Hi-Fi, which is described as a Los Angeles artist-led practice creating sculptural sound works that function as reference-level, high-fidelity listening systems. And so our buddy John Higgins sent us this press release, and needless to say, when you and I got it, we both had a good chuckle. So we gotta talk about this, and I think we're going to talk about it from two very different points of view. You from these guys are like doing the whole single driver thing. And I'm not going to spoil my angle yet. I'm gonna hold on to. I'm gonna keep this in my little shirt pocket, and I got a couple of surprises to spring on you, which you may not be surprised by, but we'll see. We'll get to that in due time. But what do you want to talk about after that?
I want to talk about the most exciting development, surely, in this year, perhaps this decade, perhaps this millennium.
Wow.
The new Wilson Audio flagship speaker, which is called the.
Say it.
I don't know.
The autobiography.
Oh, God. That's even worse than I kind of thought. The autobiography, which, and of course, they flew a bunch of writers in. I assume they flew them in.
Yeah.
Because these guys aren't going to pay to go anywhere, except for maybe a show. They pay to go to shows, but they're not going to,
Well, I bet Doug paid his own way, man. Doug typically doesn't let the manufacturers pay for his trip, so.
Possibly, but they had a stereophile guy there. They had Alan Sircom from Hi-Fi Plus. They have Robert Harley from Absolute Sound, etc. So
yeah.
They got all these guys into Utah to their headquarters and played them this new flagship speaker, which is $788,000 a pair.
Mm-hmm.
And, we at Audio
Unleashed
are not here to ridicule Veblen goods necessarily.
But, yeah.
Right. But we are going to take a look at this, take a look at what they did, take a look at, whether or not this really is an unprecedented achievement in audio something or another.
Mm-hmm.
I have to consult the actual marketing language on this, but of course at $788,000 a pair, they make some pretty colossal claims for it, as Wilson typically has for it. It's certainly for its flagship speakers and for a lot of its non-flagship speakers.
Yeah.
So we will dig in probably a little deeper than these guys did.
Yeah.
That's not saying a lot.
Needless to say.
And talk about what's going on with this speaker and whether or not it makes any sense, and whether or not we will be spending $788,000 a pair for it.
Spoiler warning: no.
Get a mansion in Alabama for that, literally.
Oh, you could get a mansion for a lot less than that, buddy. A lot less than that. Yeah. So anyway, we got patrons to take care of too, though. So I know just last episode, we already talked about a video from Audio Science Review, and we had a lot of praise for Amir's approach to, comparing a $7 cable to, what was it? Some 4-figure cable. And we thought, this is a kindler, gentler, but also more effective Amir. We had a lot of praise for him. And, we don't want to double dip too much. I mean, typically when we return to the well, it's going to be to pick on headphone style, but Amir's got another video out. And this time he is reviewing a GR Research speaker upgrade. A kit that Danny Ritchie of GR Research makes for the Ascend Sierra 2EXV2. This is a really interesting one. Not to dig too deep here in the intro, but basically what Amir did was a thorough analysis of the stock speaker and a speaker with Danny's upgraded crossovers, because that's what he does. In his videos, he will sort of do his measurements of a speaker, decide, well, obviously what's wrong here is the crossover, and then he'll sell you a new crossover for it. Well, Amir got his hands on an upgraded Ascend Sierra 2EXV2 and did a really thorough analysis, including clipple measurements and things like that, explaining his thoughts on how effective Danny's upgrade is. So we're going to dig into that, talk about it, talk about whether or not the kindler, gentler Amir is still in effect, and also we've in the past, this wasn't directed at Amir, but more some of the other people in Audio Science Review saying, I bought my lightsaber and now I'm a Jedi. I think you could say Amir has definitely built his lightsaber here. He's not using his father's lightsaber. Yeah. So I think he's, I think I'm liking this new Amir, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm really liking this new Amir. So I'll be watching all of his stuff going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be, for us, it's going to be a think piece about the struggles of YouTubers feuding with each other in the harsh light of Google screwing them out of all their money.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I miss Lester Bangs so much. I mean, not that I knew Lester Bangs. You know what I mean? The world needs Lester Bangs right now, and we don't have him, and I'm sad about that. So,
no, we don't.
Anyway. Let's talk about this whole new meta for IEMs. What is this curve that they're talking about? Give people a big picture view of what's going on here and what's everybody talking about.
Okay, well, there wasn't really. I don't think there was really a curve before Harman curve. There was diffuse field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is basically to do the diffuse field curve. You take your measurement device, you run a measurement of a good speaker in a good room. And then you run it with a measurement microphone right where the measurement device was, your cheek simulator or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you basically subtract that, and that gives you your diffuse field curve, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the basis on which headphone voicing was done for a long, long time. Well, I shouldn't say. It was suggested that headphone voicing be do, but nobody really did it. People just did whatever they wanted. And then Harman basically came out and said, hey, we did a bunch of listening tests and we derived, this curve, really 3 curves, because Harman has like a base forward curve, a neutral curve, and then a base, cut curve.
Yeah.
Basically. So of course, audio being a field of where experts are many and people who are willing to admit that somebody else has a point are few. Everybody started coming up with their own target curves, and so there's the didn't we do a story about this years ago?
And you did a whole article about it, and then we did a segment about it, but like Krenekel's curve, and then there's the headphone guy's compensation curve or whatever. But
which to some extent makes a certain amount of sense, because the Harman curve was derived on the really primitive measurement equipment of the day. Of the really, this measurement equipment was kind of designed in the 80s, but still it was all done in the last decade, right? In the 10s. And the measurement gear was pretty primitive. It was kind of, if you look at it, it looks almost the same, but they didn't have fake rubber ears that really corresponded to much of a real human ear. And they didn't try to simulate the acoustics of the ear canal, partly because ear canals vary so much.
Yeah.
And they also ignored everything above about 8K or something, because all this stuff was originally built for hearing aids.
Right.
So, and with hearing aids, all you care about is if you can hear voices.
Yeah.
So, all right. So they came out, B&K and Gross, two of the companies that make these things, came out with so-called anthropomorphic ears, which are a lot more like a real ear. I have one. I switched to it almost right away, pretty much as soon as it was available.
Yeah.
And wrote all about it and reviewed them for Audio Express, I think. And then they came out with the new simulator as well, which goes up to 20K. Basically, the problem with the old simulator was it had a big, giant resonance peak at, depending on what you were measuring, it was typically around 13K. But nobody cared because they weren't looking at that measurement. But once you're getting into audiophile stuff, you care. So anyway, blah, 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 blah. So the B&K 5128 is one of the 2 things that people use a lot. And actually there's really 3. There's Head Acoustics is in there as well, although they are a lot different from the rest of these companies. They're more into like using the head as a measurement device for all sorts of audio systems.
Right.
Anyway, so they came up with a new curve that suits the B&K 5128, and it ends up being a I can't remember all this stuff. I'm getting too old, but I believe it's basically diffuse curve with a few tweaks. It's diffuse curve with more bass.
Yeah,
to basically make it straightforward.
Yeah,
and there's a guy who created it named. This guy who's on the video, the YouTube video? What's his name?
Minimum Phase. What is it? I don't know. The channel name is Minimum Phase, but yeah.
So he came up with this new thing.
JM1.
And great, fine. And so
Joel is his name.
Joel. Okay. So other people though, like I think apparently Critical, you have to forgive me. I don't follow this stuff as closely as I did back when I was actually reviewing headphones.
Right.
I think Critical, who is now a consultant, not really a reviewer at this point, but he's still very active in all these things. He has come out in his consulting work and done things that are somewhere around this JM1 plus 10 curve, and the plus 10 refers to the bass boost. Boy, I feel like I've just babbled a long time here.
Well, let me ask you a question to get you more focused, because I think this may be something that a lot of people are curious about, and I think maybe hearing an explanation for you might bring something into focus. When we talk about the Harman curve, I've got over-ear headphones that follow the Harman target curve, right?
Yeah.
But with regard to a lot of these other target curves that are coming out, they're specifically focused on in-ear monitors.
Mhm.
So why do we not see a lot of people coming up with alternative target curves for over ears? Why all the focus on in-ears?
That's a question I hadn't contemplated. Good question, man. You're a good journalist.
Well, thank you.
So
Is it the whole pinna
anyway,
thing, the HRTF thing?
well, here's the thing. First of all, I think with earphones, there's the possibility of a lot less variance, right? Since you're cutting out the whole pinna, right? The pinna is not part of the acoustical equation. It's a lot easier to measure them since, you can measure them with a fake pinna, but basically most people measure them with just a plain stainless steel coupler, right? So it gets rid of all the pinna stuff, which is cheaper and easier and more consistent. And also, I think a lot of it is because these hardcore enthusiasts gravitate more towards IEMs than they do over-ear headphones. And I think that's because, honestly, I think it's, well, first of all, there's kind of more going on here. There's more, you can get these, look, headphones are still almost all just two drivers.
Yeah.
Nowadays, two drivers, if it's a mainstream headphone, two drivers plus DSP. If it's a, audiophile headphone, two drivers, probably open back, maybe closed back, but, two, big giant drivers, probably planers, whatever. With IEMs, I couldn't possibly tell you all the different variables here. Obviously there are some that are just plain old dynamic drivers. There are some with a dynamic driver for the bass plus a balanced armature, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 for the the mids and the highs. A lot of them have little miniature planar drivers now. So there's and the number of drivers can be 1 to 10, maybe there's something with more. So there's a lot more. It's a lot more going on. It's a more exciting field than headphones, I would argue.
Yeah.
So that's, maybe somebody, if some listener wants to give us their perspective, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
As to answer Dennis's question.
The interesting thing for me about all of this and reading this, and I don't review headphones, so a lot of this is like I sort of read into this stuff when you and I need to talk about it. But the fascinating thing for me is the whole concept of this being a range. Basically, they do this sort of population average anatomical baseline head related transfer function, and then there's a good bit of variance in here, probably more for the bass and more for the treble, less for the mid-range. In terms of the mid-range, you got to be pretty tight. You can only be off, a couple of dB, but like in the bass, it looks like you could be plus or minus, 3-4 dB, and in the treble plus or minus 3 or 4 dB. And as long as you're within the window, it seems to me they're saying probably most people are going to like that. And the closer you get to the extremes, maybe they're going to start to describe it as too bassy or boomy. But I just found it really interesting that instead of a target curve, I guess you got to call it something other than a target curve, because it's not a target. It is a range of sort of acceptability, and they try to shoot for the middle of it. But I found that really fascinating. So if not a target curve, like what would you call this? Sort of a spectrum of possibility or something, lines within which you should color if you want most people to like your headphones.
Yeah, but that's really what a target curve is anyway, because no one's going to hit the target perfectly.
Yeah.
And maybe if you have DSP, you could.
Yeah.
But if you look at, headphones that have been marketed as being Harman curve, including the ones I'm wearing right now, AKG K371s, which, of course were created by Harman, even those are not like dead on the Harman curve.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a range with any of these targets. You can't say this is the target, and if it's off by even that, even if you said if it's off by a decibel, it sucks. You're still giving people a range of plus minus 1 dB.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, a lot. The range here that they give is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But the nice thing, the thing I liked about this is that both of the people. So there's this guy, JM1 or whatever, and he explains it. And then there's Caleb Blue from headphones.com who's also explaining it. And both of them are, this is the whole thing is I get so annoyed because I just, my maxim is that if you're that completely wrapped up in this stuff, it's supposed to be to replicate music.
Yeah.
And you're not into the music. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's so much more, music is so much more interesting to me than the minutia of these things, especially since these things are, so much of this is still, as these guys acknowledge, so much of this is still a matter of personal opinion. And I'm not, I don't care if some guy off the street walks up and tells you what his favorite band is, I don't care. Because it's just personal opinion, or, even more so, like, what's his favorite color? Who cares?
Yeah.
So anyway,
I bet you're fun on dates.
I don't. Yeah.
What's your favorite book?
Well,
I don't care.
Well, no, that's different, but that's different as someone that you might want to, like, if you told me what your favorite band is, although I already know.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Okay. And like if I mean, to the point, like, I haven't been on a date in a long time, but, but when I did, I never wanted to ask that question, but because, it's kind of loaded, but I did want to hear, I always kind of tried to get that out of people.
Yeah.
But anyway, but the thing I liked so much about this, and Caleb here from headphones.com does this in the context of reviewing 3 new models that are within, considered within the new meta, right?
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of variance between them. And, so it's not like everything that conforms to new meta is going to deliver a specific result. There's still a lot of, he still found room to have a preference for, I can't remember which one he had a preference for.
Yeah.
But, he's saying the question of whether the JM1 plus 10 dB tilt curve is significantly preferred over other target curves is still to be answered by research, Harman style. But I think it's likely these IMs will fit the preferences of the average listeners, so they all get my recommendation. But that's not to say it will perfectly match an individual preference. And he thinks of it as a one-size-fits-all approach rather than a target curve.
Yeah.
So it'll probably work for most people. It won't work for some. And then the other guy, the JM1 guy, minimum phase, I wish these people would just use their names. Joel.
Yeah.
Anyway, what Joel says is kind of the same thing. He's like, look, there's at the end of his pretty long discussion, he says, look, this is basically just going to get you in the ballpark, and you're still going to have preferences, and you may not like these things at all. But at least it's and this is basically the same thing I said about Harman curve. Maybe you don't like it. You probably do. It's probably pretty good. Is it perfect? No, because what is?
Yeah.
But the perfect headphone is. You will find the perfect headphone when you stop caring so much about finding the perfect headphone.
Yeah.
If your identity is all that wrapped up in finding the perfect headphone, you're never going to find it. Not for more than about a month.
Yeah.
There's the we always had the amp of the month club, but headphones are a lot cheaper. So now we can have pretty much the headphone of the week club.
I like the point that Joel makes, though, that, look, we've had a lot of target curves, and they've been come up with, formulated in a lot of different ways. And I think the point that he makes that, wherever we go next, this is how I think we will arrive at it. It's like we've at least found a good way to start the process of establishing a target curve. I think he's good on that. And then, the headphones.com piece makes a point that, like, okay, yes, but now we need to do Harman style research on it. So I think between the two of them, you've got a really good case to be made of, this is the way to, sort of try to arrive at a voicing that works. But then you got to actually test it. Like, you got to do actual sort of controlled blind studies and be like, does this give better results for most people? Because if it doesn't give better results than the Harman target curve, then what's the point of all of this fancy work of, finding this population average HRTF and going, it's a good point. So I think between these two pieces, we've got the beginning of something at least.
Yeah, and another thing to think about is, there's the Knowles curve, which is Harman curve with high frequency information added, because the original Harman, Knowles basically said, okay, great, we have this new measurement gear. Now let's keep Harman curve because that works. So let's add, more stuff above 8K.
Yeah.
Which they did, but a big part of the whole Knowles thing is they're like, look, people's high frequency hearing varies dramatically. And, a typical somebody my age or your age, male, is going to be marginal at 12 kilohertz, whereas, a young female probably can hear pretty close to 20 kilohertz, right? So, and, when I say marginal, we're going to be down 10, 15 dB, right? Maybe more. And so how do you make something that works for all those people? And the Knowles prescription is, well, have an adjustable high frequency boost somewhere in the system.
Yeah.
And which I did try that. And I wrote an article about it. They didn't have a Knowles curve product at the time, but I basically kind of made my own with a Harman curve headphone, EQ'd to the baseline Knowles curve, and then did the boost and cut. I'm like, this works great.
Yeah.
So I think that, obviously with this crowd, it's a little tougher because they're wedded to the concept of passive earphones. And although they can, a lot of these people that are into these use a digital audio player, and those will have some kind of EQ built into them.
Right. Yeah. And then there's there's that LinkedIn post by Dr. Olive that we talked about a few episodes ago, where he basically makes the case that, the conclusion that I came to with that is, yeah, we need tone controls. We need bass and treble controls, know, but I think you still got to start with a good bass line. I don't think you could do that with some of these crazy, wacky, I don't think you could do that with Bowers and Wilkins headphones, man. It's just like tone controls alone aren't going to fix those,
Yeah, and then there's also, I like the Campfire Audio model, where they're just like, hey, look, we have all kinds of customers, and we will tell you what our earphones do. And we have a wide range of them, and if you want Harman curve, we got that. If you want more treble, we got that. If you want whatever, we got that. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right. So I kind of like that. And the guys, Kim Ball is completely honest and open about what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I like that too. And plus, honestly, I think there's a little more pride of ownership in getting something that's artisanal like that, made in Portland, and
okay,
all that. Yeah.
All right, so I think we've talked about this one enough, man. Do you want to take a break and get some water and come back and talk about Oben Hi-Fi?
I do. I'm going to need a lot of water, though.
All right, we'll go get a lot of water. We'll be right back, y'all.
Okay.
Welcome back. This is Audio Unleashed. All right. So this time around, we are talking about a crazy press release that we received from our buddy John Higgins. And this is for a Los Angeles artist-led practice creating sculptural soundworks that function as reference-level high-fidelity listening systems. And the name of that practice is Oben Hi-Fi. The press release goes on to say, founded by two working artists, Stevie and Bronx, Open occupies a category that does not yet have a name. Objects conceived simultaneously of sculpture, instrument, architecture, and collectible, where the form and the frequency are inseparable from the beginning. And there are probably going to be some people in our audience whose ears are perking up at that, but I'll explain why in a little bit. But why do you want to talk about this one, Brent?
Well, I'm going to come right out and say I don't have any problem with people making funky looking speakers, and these are funky looking.
Yeah.
And I can almost guarantee you that sound comes out of them. So
I'm not so sure about
they
that. I am not convinced.
They do serve that purpose. They serve that purpose.
I don't know that they do, but okay, we'll get there.
And I don't care, and that's fine. And I can see why, I don't know, Timothy Chalamet would want to buy a couple of these for his funky, cool pad he lives in Beverly Hills or wherever he lives. I don't know where he lives. But there's a certain element, especially they're based in Los Angeles, and there's a certain element of wealthy LA people who are going to look at this and go, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I need some sound in this room. Yeah, let's just do that rather than go get a Sonos system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, they got the money to throw around, and I'm sure these things are really expensive. I got to say, from a design standpoint, I don't hate them.
Yeah.
Mostly. I mean, some of them I do hate. I went on their website, and some of them are pretty like, what the hell is that thing? Some of them are kind of cool,
Yeah. I don't think
so. There's that.
I don't think any of them are real, buddy, and I'll tell you why. So I need to back up a little bit. So I recently had a prominent person in the industry contact me and say, "Hey, my wife wrote a book. Will you edit it for us?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." We heard that, word's gotten around that I do that, but sure, yeah, I'll do that. And I got it, and I started realizing, oh crap, his wife didn't write this book. ChatGPT wrote this book, right?
Yeah.
And so I spent about a month basically de-ChatGPTing this book, and I got very, very, very intimately familiar with all of the weird quirks of large language models, like even more so than I ever was. And I'm reading this press release, and all of my alarm bells are going off like, oh, I've seen this trick. Oh, I know what's going on here. Yep, nope, that's a sign of a large language model. So I put this thing through a large language model text detector. Now, these things are not infallible. None of them claim to be infallible. And I would say, like, if you hit like 65% confidence that something was AI generated, you start paying attention, especially when it starts to break down like this text versus that text. But I took and ran this press release through a large language model detector. And for the first time ever, AI, 100%. I've never seen a large language model say 100% anything. And this is literally every word of this is highlighted, and it says, we are highly confident that this text was AI generated. So then I went and started pulling some of the AI image detectors and putting them to work. And I've seen these days they're getting harder and harder to fool, granted. And so like if you get like, 80% likelihood of this being AI generated, then you start to look for the quirky things. Yeah. All of these images, every single one of them came up 99% likelihood of AI. And then I started really going and doing the tools. And like, there's the one where like they're sitting in front of the window, like the window is illuminating the speaker from the side. You actually go in and start drawing vectors over those window panes. They never converge, right?
Yeah.
So there's never, the perspective on these photos is off. You can't make the perspective work. So not only are the images entirely AI generated, but all of the text surrounding these speakers is AI generated. I don't know. I don't think this is a real product. I don't think these are real products at all, bud. I just don't. I don't think they're real.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, there are these two artists that that supposedly worked on all these things, maybe the artist just sketched stuff and then said, "Hey, AI, make a photo out of this."
Could be.
I don't know. It's not like, I mean, some of them look kind of cool. I mean, some of them look pretty stupid, but my problem is with the claims that are made about sound.
Yeah.
And once again, we have each system uses full-range, crossover-free drivers, sound delivered as a single continuous event, not divided and reassembled. Every note arrives from one source, preserving phase, timing, and the emotional coherence of the original performance, blah, 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 blah. So this is this single driver speaker or the single driver, quote-unquote, technology.
Yeah.
Which is like saying, horse and buggy technology. I mean, technically, I guess somebody had to figure out, like, we could make a buggy and hook it to a horse, right?
Yeah.
So technically, it's technology. Anyway, we see this at hi-fi shows a lot, and we'll be talking about that because, every hi-fi show coverage, you start to see more and more of this junk, and I'm really comfortable saying it's junk.
Yeah.
And there's this myth that, like, this is somehow more natural and everything. Here's the problem. Yeah, it's phase coherent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in other words, all frequencies of the sound come out, with the same timing since they're coming from the same driver, right? But here's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
The frequency response of these things is so far off.
Yeah.
The dispersion of these things especially is so far off of any kind of norm that they are incapable of reproducing accurate sound. And I say that having measured a few of them.
Yeah.
And I even I guess about 10 years ago, I really was like, I should give these things a chance, but I don't want to have some manufacturer send me his stuff. So I'm just going to buy the drivers. And I bought some Audio Nirvana drivers, and I used and they had, specs that you could use to build cabinets for them and everything.
Yeah.
And I built like a ported cabinet. Then I built a transmission line cabinet for them. And, a part of the appeal is that they're really efficient. So you can plug a little amp into them and they play pretty loud.
Yeah.
And all that. But both of the cabinets I built, the drivers just sounded bad. They sounded unnatural. I measured them. Of course, the frequency response was way off. Now, you could theoretically EQ them to be flat on axis,
but
maybe.
But the dispersion of these things has got to be so horrific. They're virtually unequable. Because the thing that I was about to ask you is, like, doesn't the whole phase coherence aspect of these things go away as soon as you put them in a room, just because your off-axis frequency response is so radically different from your on-axis? Wouldn't there be some sort of cancellation just in the room because of the horrible dispersion?
Yeah, so the initial wave from the speaker is presumably, the most direct path is the speaker to your ear. And that will arrive in phase. However, the sound is going to be very unnatural. There's just no way around that. Okay. There is no way to fix that. I will add, you can do this. You can do like a full range 3 or 3.5 inch driver. And that's not so bad. That's actually, those can actually be kind of pleasing, right? They obviously can't do any bass, and you can actually hook up a driver like that to a woofer and cross it over, although then you're introducing evil crossovers.
Like the orb audio stuff, I guess, is what you're talking about, maybe, right? Something like that.
Yeah. That actually, the orb audio or the company that Orb kind of came out of, I can't remember the name of them. I should. Oh, Gallo. Yeah, that thing works. They got about a 3-inch driver, and they cross it over to some kind of a woofer.
Yeah.
That actually, it's not my favorite thing in the world, but it works pretty well.
Sure.
But once you start to get into these big drivers, as everybody who listens to Audio Unleashed knows, the bigger the driver, the narrower the dispersion at high frequencies. So these are big drivers. They probably, one thing a lot of people don't know about these drivers, these are the ones that have a whizzer cone in the middle, like a little smaller cone inside the big cone. And if you do these drivers right, they actually have an acoustical crossover. So they don't have an electrical crossover, but they have an acoustical crossover. So the voice coil is hooked up to the small cone, and the small cone is connected to the big cone with another surround, right? A flexible, compliant surround. So the high frequencies don't go through the surround, but the low frequencies do. So technically, there is a crossover, but it's a physical acoustical crossover rather than
fascinating
something done with capacitors and chokes and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes with these Wizardcone speakers, they don't have that. They just are a direct connection, and that's even worse. Teal actually did this right towards the end of his life. Jim Teal was experimenting with this and got some stuff to sound good.
Yeah.
Like the last top of the line speaker he did had this and it worked. But anyway, Jim Teal would spend years engineering one speaker.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
To the chagrin of everyone at his company, and his dealers and everything. But he was obsessed, and he knew what he was doing. He spent a lot of time doing it. These guys are buying full range drivers and slapping them into weird looking boxes, and they may sound kind of okay, but sound will come out. You will still recognize John Coltrane as John Coltrane. You will still recognize Jerry Garcia as Jerry Garcia. To throw in a more modern reference for the kids, you will recognize Charlie XCX as Charlie XCX.
Yeah.
See, I'm in tune with what the kids are listening to these days.
Yeah, you are.
And anyway, so but these people, this is like a couple of artists, I guess, who maybe to some degree are creating these cabinets. And I gotta say, I really do like a lot of these cabinets, but these speakers don't sound good.
Well,
there's just no way. Anybody can listen to, as we've said many times here, anybody can listen to anything and say it sounds good, right? But you will see that the speakers, if you measure the speakers, you'll see this is a substantial change from what was intended.
Yeah.
And we got to also get into, I told you I was going to rant.
You did.
We also got to get into what the artist intended here. And if you buy these speakers, you are not going along with what the artist intended. Now, years ago, decades ago, recording monitors were mostly terrible, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't prevent them from doing, Led Zeppelin 2 or Fleetwood Mac Rumors or Miles Davis Kind of Blue or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But the monitors were terrible and they were wildly different and there just wasn't a lot of science. But I measure a lot of inexpensive computer, recording monitors. We call them computer speakers at Wirecutter. And they are mostly really good. There's still some I like better than others, but you can go buy recording monitors now for $300, even less, really. And they will be flat. And their dispersion off axis will be great. And that's what most stuff is mixed on nowadays is speakers that are well engineered. They're almost all active speakers with built-in EQ, and designed by people who know what they're doing, who are applying the science. So if you then take a recording that was, say, mastered by Emily Lazar, current mastering engineer, and you put it through these speakers and you think it's somehow better than putting it through, a typical woofer under tweeter type of speaker that's built according to the Harman sort of guidelines. The Floyd tool kind of stuff and all that. If you use this speaker instead, you are substantially changing the decisions that mastering engineer made when they were making the recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're putting your sound reproduction in the hands of these companies that are done by guys who really, there are women involved too, at least in one of them I know of.
Yeah.
But in people who are ignoring the rules of science.
Yeah.
Who are basically, coming up with something that is distinctive but worse. And demonstrably worse. None of these are going to, in a blind test, all these are going to just get slaughtered by anything that's just the $250 a pair of things that Polk sells.
Yeah.
Are going to slaughter any of these things. Just slaughter them.
By the way, like all of them have the exact same technical specifications. Like even the ones that are Jew driver systems still show technical specifications of like I'm looking at the 2-driver what is it called? Main. And then you look at the technical composition and it says architecture, full range, single driver. And they're given the same sensitivity for all of them, which is like 95 to 96.7 dB SPL, depending on, the driver size. Power handling is all, for 8-inch or 12-inch, 30 watts nominal, 50 watts maximum. For 15-inch, 50 watts nominal, 80 watts maximum. It's like they're just copying, pasting the same technical specifications for each one.
Yeah.
Like, man, it's just like, come on. Like, you expect me to believe that your cabinet is doing absolutely nothing to the sensitivity of these speakers or the impedance of the speakers? I mean, okay, that's certainly a claim.
Yeah. And so anyway, I was up, but I also, because I hate myself, I read stereophile.com. And
do you hate yourself or do you love Audio Unleashed listeners? That's the question.
It's a combination of the two. And so I find an article that fits that's just teed right up for this conversation by our old friend Herb Reichert at Stereophile.
Yeah.
And I have met him a couple times. Not really friends, but acquainted. Anyway, and I see this pair of AER speakers that are the same sort of full range driver. I'm not saying it's the same driver, it's their own driver, but it's the same concept, Wizardcone and all this sort of stuff. And doing the full range of audio with one driver or attempting to do the full range of audio with one driver. And they're like these pyramids and they have this driver in the middle and they have this big giant
cone
sort
of
shame. Horn around them.
Cone of shame. That's a cone of shame. Come on, man.
like you put on your on your dog when they to keep her from chewing on their feet. But it's plastic and it's see-through, and you can actually I dug into this. You can get it in different colors. It's unclear from their site what these speakers cost, but the drivers alone, you can buy the drivers individually, and the drivers alone are like $4,000 to $6,000 each.
Golly.
Okay. But then you don't need a crossover, so you're saving a couple of bucks on your capacitors.
Oh, come on. That would be at least $3, Brent.
And these are open baffles, so there's no box around them.
Yeah.
So it's just basically if you went and bought a full range driver and kind of held it in your hand.
Oh my God. Don't give Elon Musk ideas, man, because now he's just going to hire a speaker slave to stand around holding a full range driver all day and call that his speaker,
And another guy to hold the horn, the horn thing, which is big. It's like 3 feet across, right?
Yeah.
So I think they said it was 650 millimeters. So it's more like 2.5 feet. But anyway, so Herb recounts his experience, which of course happens in New York.
Yeah.
And
where does anything else happen, Brent? Nothing happens anywhere else.
Nothing, man. Once you leave New York, you're not going anywhere. Yeah. That's what Duke Ellington said.
Yeah.
And anyway, so Herb finds some artist friend of his, of course, and this guy, and so they have this guy goes up his 6th floor walk up. Okay. Which I actually lived in a 5-floor walk up in Lower Manhattan once.
Wow.
So I can tell you, if I had the choice of buying speakers, these speakers are probably, bare minimum. Like I said, again, the pricing is very unclear from the website, but these are bare minimum, probably $50,000-$60,000. And if I had a choice of buying these speakers or getting an apartment with an elevator, I would absolutely get the apartment with the elevator. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he's got this guy's in this like little tiny apartment, and he's got these speakers in his bedroom, and but Herb just like goes on and on and on about how like this is just the best thing ever. I never heard horns that sounded like this. 1 minute into the first disc, I declared. And, the sound was faster, more detailed, more vibed up and reverb strong than I'd ever heard from a home loudspeaker. Blah, 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 blah. But then anyone who knows speakers can look at these speakers and go, no, it wasn't. It absolutely was not. Because again, whoever designed these speakers thought they knew better than your mastering engineer.
Yeah.
Or, whoever mastered whatever you're listening to, right?
Yeah.
They think they know better. They think they think they're making something more transparent because it's simpler and doesn't have a crossover.
Yeah.
But it's also colossally coloring the sound. And this is so stupid. I can't believe that Stereophile does this. And they are as probably as more to blame than anybody else because they could have, John Atkinson could have said, you know what, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Flat out stupid.
Yeah.
And he should have said that. But, he measured some Voxative speakers, which is another brand that does this. Must have been 8 or 10 years ago that Art Dudley reviewed. And, and they were a mess. But then, he measured the in-room response, averaged in-room response, and it was really flat. And what do we say about speakers that have a flat in-room average response?
Yeesh. Unlistenable.
They sound too bright.
Yep.
Okay, as you could go watch Aaron's Audio Corner.
Yeah.
And he will show you this in great depth and make a really good case for it. It's like, it's too bright, but Atkinson's sitting there going, oh, well, this is somehow laudable that it's got this messed up response. And he's trying to find, look, I just admire the guy so much, and he's had so much of an influence on me, but he also tries to find excuses for all this garbage.
Yeah.
And they've been making excuses for all this garbage, and now you have audio shows that are filled with all this garbage.
Yeah.
But then, Herb goes to somebody else's apartment in New York, I'm sure, and and of course you get the atmospherics of it. While I listened, I enjoyed seeing beat up cardboard record boxes scattered around the floor, filled with fierce, high lonesome bluegrass, classic country, acoustic blues, gospel and Jamaican music from Pressure Sounds. Loose records were everywhere, and each one I spotted became the one I wanted to hear next. Oh my God.
You want to know how I know that Herb's a good guy, though?
Why?
Because
I'm not saying he's not.
No, I know, but here's how I know he's a good guy. Because he could kill us without lifting a finger.
How?
He could. He would get away with it. No jury in the world would convict him because next month he could go and listen to one of these things and type in his article, I don't know, I really heard some cupped hands distortion, and the dispersion was really bad. And you and I would drop dead instantly, and he would get away with it. So that's how you know Herb is not evil.
Well, here's the thing, though, is that Stereophile would never do that because there's too much money to be made.
Yeah,
they can't look, Stereophile exists, and Absolute Sound and other publications. Hi-Fi Plus, they exist to promote the high-end audio industry.
Yeah.
And whatever the high-end audio industry comes up with, no matter how stupid as these are, they're going to find a way to make excuses for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Herb is not sincere in his raving about this stuff, but, just in the way that, someone might be sincere in saying that Kenny G is the greatest sax player that ever lived. And the first person to disabuse you of that notion would probably be Kenny G. but people might, I've heard people say that, and just like, oh my God, it's like, you can't, as Julian Hirsch said, decades ago, this stuff's a matter of opinion. And if someone likes something, you can't really argue with that. Even though he often did. Anyway, so I'm looking at these speakers, and it's just like there's just no. It's all made up stuff. It's like.
Well, wait a minute now. Which ones are you talking about? Because there are some here that I think are actually made up stuff, and then there are others that are just kind of made up stuff.
Anyway, but the thing is, the reason I'm just going off on this is I'm just so tired of this. These speakers sound comes out of them.
Mm.
You will still recognize it as music. It is not good.
Mm-mm.
There is no way around it. You are substantially changing what the artist intended.
Yeah.
Substantially changing it. And you are imposing your own aesthetic on the artist. Now, if you like a little more bass, a little less bass, a little more treble, like we were talking about in the last segment, if you want to have tone controls, then you're compensating for errors in your room, errors in your speakers,
Sure.
mastering decisions you may not agree with too much, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I hear stuff to me that doesn't have enough bass, and I turn
Yeah.
the bass up a notch if
Yeah.
if I have a system that does that.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But like this thing of like making worse sound, I would liken it to, it's sort of like, okay, I like this recording, but I'm going to run it through, 96K MP3.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it better that way.
Mm.
And that would actually be less sonically objectionable than using these speakers.
Ooh, dang. Wow. Shots fired.
Well,
bud.
it would. I think it. I mean, I haven't done that test, but I think it would, having actually done MP3s like that, and actually having measured some speakers like this. And there is just no way around it. They cannot make these speakers. Like I said, you can EQ them to be flat on axis, but then the sound will be worse.
Yeah.
Okay, you're better off. You could take these things and sit there with an EQ and mess with it and probably get kind of okay-ish sound out of it, but it's still going to probably have some cupped hands distortion.
Yeah.
It's not going to have as much bass, although this AER company does offer a subwoofer. That's, to their credit, a pretty generic-looking subwoofer.
Yeah.
Looks like, if Power Sound Audio came out with the same sub, I'd be kind of like, oh, they got a new sub. But they would come out at half or a third of the price. But anyway, this stuff just drives me crazy. And this is like what high-end audio has descended to. And all the stuff costs, starting point is, $20,000 maybe.
Yeah.
And you're getting into real quickly $100,000 for a system or more, or multiples of that.
Yeah.
And it's worse. It's worse than if you went and bought the $250, $300 Polks that are there and hooked them up to a WIM amp for $300 or whatever they cost. And, $600 and you're in and out. Some speaker stands would be a good idea. But, $600 and you're in and out. And you could also add a subwoofer for, $300, $400 something, and really have yourself a great system, whereas it'll sound better than these systems do.
By the way, I just found out. I may be. I know I'm right about them using AI to generate the text and the images, but I may be wrong about these open speakers not actually existing, despite the fact that, the most that they've made of any of these models is 11, edition size 11. We've got 8 remaining. But there's a page here where you can actually book a private listening session. Everything on the site is an attempt to describe something that has to be heard. Words can gesture toward it, images can suggest it, but the experience of hearing Oben for the first time is something that happens in a room, in a body, in the moment when sound stops being a concept and becomes that's AI written. But anyway, you can schedule a listening session in their showroom in central Los Angeles. So anybody in central LA, man, go to the website, book a private listening session, and write in and tell us if these things actually exist or not, man, and what you think of the sound.
Yeah, and also I'm seeing a picture I didn't see. I'm on their website now. I'm seeing a picture I didn't see before of this dude sitting there cross-legged in this funky outfit, and he's got these 2 speakers that look like insects. And these speakers, I almost guarantee you, do not exist. And they have like 2 eyes. They look like the flying spaghetti monster, kind of.
Yeah.
And they have 2 full-range drivers that are, about a foot and a half apart. And it's like, okay, well, now you have 2 sources. And since there's no filtering, these 2 sources are going to be interfering with each other. You're going to get massive comb filter effects.
Yeah.
I mean, just huge, troubling, awful comb filter effects.
Yeah.
And they should hire, well, the only thing is if they hire, if you hire somebody who knows what they're doing, a lot of times they'll tell you that your ideas are not doable. And and then you will get all mad and you will ignore them or get rid of them. But I love these ones here that are like, that have like all kinds of like Chewbacca looking fur around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just so funny and so silly. And so, again, if you're an artsy person living in LA or New York and you want to have something cool, oh, here's one that's like a stand, and then it's got a thing that actually looks kind of like those horns that were on the AER speakers, except it's covered with what looks like carpet, which looks like something I would have thought of when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Which will control the dispersion.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will have a measurable effect. But these things are like the Chorus David is $71,000 a pair. And granted, I think that the Chorus David and Chorus Goliath look really cool. I have to say. They do look really cool. But there's no reason you couldn't take that same design and make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
You know, just you'd have to add a tweeter, but there's no reason it can't work.
Yeah.
You know?
You go to their Facebook page and they've got that one speaker on there, and then there's a bird. I think this is the Callisto. And then there's a bird sitting on top of it that I guess looks like some kind of, maybe like a robin or something like that. But if you just really look at the scale, that robin has got to be like 18 inches tall, man.
Yeah.
This just doesn't exist. Like everything on their Instagram page is AI slop. Literally everything. This is some weird stuff, man. This is some weird stuff.
High-end audio journalists and publications and manufacturers, you can continue making and celebrating stuff that sucks. Go right to it. But, you know, if you actually want to make a contribution to the world, actually go to the trouble of learning how to make something good and make it. And then tell the writers it's good.
Yeah.
And they'll probably, you know, take them out to dinner. They'll probably give you a good review.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It's not that hard.
No. All right, we're ranting long enough on this one, buddy. We're gonna run along with this episode. So let's take a break and get some water and come back and talk about these new Wilson flagship, the autobiography speakers.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back, y'all.
And we are back. This is audio.
Oh, Unleashed?
You sound as if you're not sure.
I'm not sure about anything these days, buddy. We live in uncertain times.
Okay, well, we are definitely unleashed because we're among the few who can actually talk about Wilson speakers and not have to babble on about them, how great they are, because to salvage the advertising.
Can I babble on about how gorgeous they are, though, man? Because, golly, these speakers are sexy.
I mean, they're pretty cool. If you're, you know, it is, you know, like I was saying, it's kind of H.R. Geiger looking.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that's a good thing. I mean, he did the cover of a Celtic Frost album. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
I like that that's your go-to. Two designed aliens, you know, the xenomorph, and you're like, yeah, Celtic Frost cover. That rocks, man.
Well, yeah, but Tom Gabriel Warrior, the leader of Celtic Frost, was a close friend of H.R. Geiger and is the executor of his estate.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so serious art, extreme metal, the confluence between art and extreme metal.
Okay, cool.
So we're talking about forces that you and I just can't understand.
Probably not.
So anyway, what are these guys talking about, Dennis?
They are talking about the autobiography, which just, man, every time any journalist tries to justify the name of this thing, I just throw up in my mouth a little bit. I got it. I mean, although I got, you know, props for these days coming up with anything memorable, something that stands out, something that people talk about, something that is buzzworthy. You got to give them props for that. So as much as I'm personally a little icked by it, I think this is probably the right move. Like read Alan Sercom's introduction to Hi-Fi Plus, the autobiography by Wilson Audio. is the autobiography of Wilson Audio. It's also the autobiography of the listener. Those three elements intersect instantly, but it takes time to put that into words. I mean, say what you will, but that nobody would have come up with that lead if they had named these things, I don't know, the Summit or something. You know what I mean? So props for creating buzz about anything high and audio related. I think that's laudable, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess this speaker's extra special because it takes time to put into words what you think about it. In other words, you have to, I guess, write. Doesn't writing take time to put into words? Isn't that the whole definition of writing or even speaking?
I hadn't really thought of it like that, but never mind. I take back my entire argument.
Please. Anyway, all these guys. So, Alan Sircom from Hi-Fi Plus, who's a UK guy. Robert Harley from Absolute Sound, and who's the Stereophile guy? Miguel Barrio.
Yeah.
They all went to, apparently Wilson had a special event to which they did not invite Audio
Unleashed. And can you blame them?
And, draw what conclusions you will from that. Probably that they've never heard of us, whatever.
Well, I don't know.
Well, no, even if they had heard us and listened to us for like 10 minutes, they'd be like, yeah, this is not our audience.
Yeah. So.
These people have been around for a long time, 50-something years. So clearly they have some survival skills and they know better than to invite us to their thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they had this event and to show off this is I think their current, they're famous for the Wham speaker, Wilson Audio Music Monitor, I think, which was shockingly $100,000 when it was launched. God, I think in the late 80s, which had all these movable drivers. I think it had 2 planar panels. It had, a couple woofers in the bass. It had a thing above them with like 2 planar panels that you could move in and out, and a tweeter in the middle, and a couple, cone mid ranges flanking that. So you could tune, you could move these speakers all to tune them to precisely the right distance from your ear. So they're all properly time aligned or whatever. And this is just an outgrowth of that. And the latest model, I think, is the Chronosonic with some number after it. And which, I've heard them. I actually stayed with Dan D'Agostino in his house in north of Phoenix. And he had a pair.
Yeah.
And they sound okay.
Yeah.
And, so these have been kicking around in one way or another for decades. And this is just really the latest version. It's the most expensive version. It's $788,000 a pair. And you look at this thing and it's like, well, yeah, maybe that's $788,000 a pair worth of speaker.
With all the metal work and all of the sort of gears and like, so we should say like right off the bat, like a lot of the clockwork mechanisms and gears for how you actually rotate these driver assemblies. So, the array, the mid tweeter, like it's a lot of mids and a lot of tweeters. But so that whole array is sort of pointed right at you. That's pretty sophisticated metalwork, man. I mean,
yeah. There's all these black tubes going into it with all these fittings, so you don't actually see the wires that connect it. And it kind of recalls like the Matrix, where like Keanu Reeves was in this thing where he was hooked up to all these tubes that were supposedly doing whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's a little creepy, to be honest.
Yeah, these things definitely know Kung Fu. So, but...
like when I saw these, I thought, whoa.
Yeah, the first thing I thought is there is no spoon. So we're on the same wavelengths here, buddy.
Anyway, it's this thing is 83 and a half inches tall. I can't remember what they weigh, but it's a lot.
It is a lot.
I mean, these are going to be installed. And like Wilson, I don't know if they probably still do it. They used to, when you bought a Wham system, David Wilson used to come set them up for you.
Yeah. I don't know if Daryl's into that. I think he's probably doing more media tour stuff, and I don't know. He's pretty good on camera. So,
Well, and I'm pretty sure they send somebody out. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a dealer involved, and they probably, for this kind of money, they probably send a Wilson Audio person out to calibrate it and all, especially since it is designed to be calibrated.
Yeah.
It's not like you plop these things in the room. So all these drivers, and this one has a couple of mid-range, it looks like it's hard for me to tell. They describe it as two-inch upper mid-range drivers around the tweeter, and they're in their own waveguide, right? So they actually look like about a 4.5-inch woofer, but they're actually mid-range domes.
Yeah.
And there's two 7-inch mid-range, and there's a tweeter. And so the idea is you move these things back and forth, and it time aligns the speaker perfectly. And
you tilt them up and down as well. Yeah. So
yeah. And so as Alan Sercom put it, it has ultra precise driver alignment system that realizes an unprecedented time accuracy of 1 microsecond.
Okay.
And 1 microsecond, let's see, let's do the patented Brent Butterworth method of figuring out wavelengths.
I mean, it wouldn't be if you wiggled your eyebrows, wouldn't that affect that 1 microsecond time alignment?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay, so look, if you do the back of the envelope method of the wavelength of 1 kilohertz is a foot, right? So this would affect 1 kilohertz. This is basically like 1,000th of a foot, right? Which is pretty small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's microscopic. And so you're right. It's like if you just move your head even slightly, it's going to not be so precise anymore.
Yeah.
And in fact, it doesn't need to be so precise. We listen to lots of speakers that aren't time aligned at all, and we like them.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like you're underselling it a little bit. I mean, you're making it sound like if you deliberately move your head a little bit. But I'm saying, like, you can't not move your head more than that in any given second, right? It's just the micro movements of existing are bigger than that.
Yeah. So it's like, if they want to do this, that's fine, but let's not pretend that a difference of 1 microsecond. And, and actually we at Audio
Unleashed
are quite familiar with the concept of what 1 microsecond differs with sound. Actually, you know what? We're not. We are familiar with the concept of what a millisecond.
Millisecond. Yeah, I was about to say.
Because when we edit this lovely podcast, there's a nudge feature in Reaper. You found that, right?
Oh yeah.
And
have to.
So there's a nudge feature where you can nudge an audio clip, by however much you want.
Yeah.
But you can set it, and so the minimum nudge for me is 10 milliseconds that I use.
Yeah.
And that's like the minimum that you would notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is 1 microsecond.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about a time shift difference, right? We're not talking about, actually time shifting 1 clip versus another, right? We're not talking about a phase difference.
Right.
So 10 milliseconds to us is like, that's just barely noticeable.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I kind of wish more, they should make audio writers, they should make them all do some speaker measurements the old fashioned way, not shoving it in a clipple, which we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah.
But for Patreon, but actually do that. Actually, maybe build a speaker. It doesn't have to be great. Just go through the math of building a speaker, and do some basic measurements of speakers and amps and things, and do a little blind testing, and but learn what 1 microsecond means in audio.
Yeah.
It means bupkis. I mean, it's just kind of like, anyway. So, but I mean, it's not bad that you can time align these things. And I do happen to think that, phase coherent speakers do have their positive aspects. I mean, they have a lot of downsides too, but I think they have a more wraparound sound, but like, Jim Teal speakers, his time coherent spec was, I think, plus minus 5 degrees or something, right? So there was still a pretty good range. He couldn't get it perfect. And, with this, it's like, okay, I guess you can get it perfect,
Yeah.
but what's really the point? I mean, it's already. I mean, I'm not saying these speakers sound bad. They probably sound pretty good. There's nothing I don't see. If we had Doug Schneider on here, we could maybe he would argue with me a little bit, but I don't see anything in these speakers that would necessarily make them sound bad. And
No.
none of the kind of obvious crossover errors that I see, none of the obvious, like, badly chosen crossover points and things like that.
Don't have
None
to
of
worry
the,
about
he's
baffled diffraction.
no, there's no none of that. There's no you do have to worry about the drivers interfering with each other, and I don't know what their crossover slopes are here. I think Wilson uses first order a lot, which can be problematic.
Yeah.
And it can be done right, but can also be problematic. And yeah, these probably sound fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're, for 788,000 a pair. I mean, granted, these will make a statement. If you buy these and people walk into your living room, in your 100,000 square foot ski lodge in Aspen or whatever, with the beautiful view overlooking in your great room, and you have the view of the mountains, and you have these framing your giant 20-foot high window in your great room.
Yeah.
People will notice.
Yeah.
It's not like this is just some coffee table or something. People will be like, whoa, what is that thing?
Yeah.
Because they do look cool. And they're kind of like actually, it's kind of like Sandy Gross, friend of the pod. was I was at his place in New York one time. I was looking through he's an art collector, and I was looking through one of his catalogs, and they had like some beautiful like drawings from Andy Warhol that were really like very beautiful drawings of like ballet shoes and stuff, right? Nothing, not what you think of Warhol at all. And they're like 20 grand. And I'm kind of like, Sandy, why this? It's like, this is really so nice. Why is it only like 20 grand? And all these paintings that he silk screened are millions of dollars. He says, well, if you have one of those paintings, everybody knows you have a Warhol.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. This is the speaker that's built along that same philosophy. I mean, there are defensible things that they did with this speaker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's overstated, but there's reasons. You look at the speaker design, you go like, yeah, there's reasons they would do that.
Sure.
But ultimately, the goal here was really, since they're old speakers, also, they're old, Chronosonic, whatever, those worked fine too. At least in my experience. And I never measured one, and nor would I want to. But this is more of a marketing effort.
Yeah.
More of like, okay, everybody else is coming out with speakers that are over 500,000 a pair. And we're certainly, Wilson's one of the biggest names in ultra high-end speakers. We got to be there too.
Yeah.
What can we do that will appeal to that buyer? And this would appeal to that buyer. I mean, the Elon Musks of the world could buy this and be like, and it would impress people. And maybe he could get, in one of the millions of pictures of him, he could stand next to it, have it in the background, and people be like, wow, what is that? Elon Musk must be awesome if he has those.
Yeah. Boy.
So, I don't want to pick on Elon Musk.
You would need for these things too. I'm looking at the technical specs. Impedance is 4 ohms nominal, but drops to 2.1 ohms at 293 hertz. So you're gonna need some bad boy amps for these babies. I mean, like, come on,
yeah.
you would put bad boy amps with these anyway. You're gonna have big, crazy
obviously.
mono blocks with these, but like you're not hooking these things up to like a single-ended triode 2 amp. So
no, I mean, you could use some of the big Boulder amps or the D'Agostino stuff. A lot of these are often paired with D'Agostino stuff.
Yeah,
they could be paired with Constellation stuff. Some of these big monster amps that have 200 or 300 watts, and they'll drive probably a 1 ohm load. And those amps will work fine with this. Although there's like 4 different pairs of binding posts on the back.
Yeah.
So you can quad amp these, and I'm sure most people would amp these with a stack of amps per speaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I don't really. I mean, this is a marketing exercise. This is a car company deciding, let's make $1 million car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And which, hey, if you want to do that, that's fine. I mean, and to their credit, the claims that Wilson's making are much less absurd than the claims that all these single driver speaker guys are making.
Yeah. I just love the fact that every different sort of colorway that is shown in all of these, like if you look at the Hi-Fi Plus versus the, stereophile versus the absolute sound, and sort of look at all of the different, finish designs, they all end up looking like different speakers. There's a lot of personalization to this. There's a lot of like, not just like what color do you want it to be, but like what vibe is this big multi-driver contraption? Do you want more Jules Verne or do you want more, Giger? And I gotta say, and there's another one that kind of reminds me of like an F1 McLaren. I mean, it's just, if you're going to spend this much money on a speaker, this level of customization and personalization is key in my opinion. So I really like that they went that route.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that. But yeah, the one on the Alan Sircom article in Hi-Fi Plus, they look like F1 cars.
Yeah.
And whereas the Stereophile one is, just done in orange and with, black trim.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting, and it's kind of cool.
But then scroll down below the orange one with the black trim, and there's something that almost looks like a 57 Chevy, or maybe like 62 Cadillac. I mean, it's got a very sort of drive-in diner vibe to it with all of the chrome.
Oh, how weird!
Yeah, isn't that?
And that
lovely?
Looks like it's for real because Darrell Wilson is standing right next to it.
Yeah.
And if I mentally ray trace everything, it doesn't look like a fake picture.
I don't think it's a fake picture, man. I think it's but yeah, doesn't that have sort of like a classic, like, hot rod vibe? I dig it, man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it looks like you can have it with the rough machining marks on the aluminum or not. Or you can have it smooth.
Yeah.
Smooth and finished with a nice automotive paint or whatever you want. And this one lets you see the mid-range drivers a lot clearer.
Yeah.
You can tell that it's not a woofer. So, yeah, I mean, it's luxury good.
Yeah. But this is the way to do it, in my opinion. This is the way to do a luxury, this is the way to do an $800,000 speaker, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sure. And I don't doubt that you could throw together a good system for radically less money. Mm-hmm. But that's not the point.
Yeah. No. All right, buddy. Well, I think I've said about enough about this one. Do you want to wrap it up and do some credits so we can go keep our patrons happy?
Yeah. This is a ButterBurger production.
Yeah. Good job, buddy.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for the condescending phrase there.
I'm trying to cheer you on, man.
And the music will be, there's a new tune by me.
Yay.
It's kind of okay.
Okay.
And then Dennis is editing, so Dennis will plug in something else he likes.
It's true, I will.
I should do a tune that's like in the style of the Grateful Dead, just to pander to you.
It'll be interesting to hear what you think sounds like the Grateful Dead, because like what era of the Grateful Dead are we talking about here?
There are different eras of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, I mean, basically every time there's a different keyboard player, it's pretty much an entirely different band, Because
which is the era where the guitar player sounded like
that is not I'm aware of. Although, I mean, I guess you could argue maybe some of the like Blues for Allah era. I don't know, but yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, everybody, thanks for joining us so much. We appreciate each and every one of you. But patrons, stick around. We got one more coming for you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/Audio Unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/Audio Unleashed.
Or Audio
Unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.